2011 and has been spearheading various programs on harm reduction. He is ardently working as a part of the global harm reduction movement of the International HIV/AIDS Alliance and its consortium partners.
Everyone who's attending this session today. Oops. So I would start with the current scenario of India. If you can see on the presentation, we have an estimated about 1,77,000 1,77,000 injecting drug users as per the NACO estimation. Out of that, we have about 10 to 30,000 women who use drugs or female who inject drugs. But then the recent study conducted by the Ministry of Social Justice, which was conducted by AIMS, has come up with a new figure that is about 8,50,000, which is more than 4 times the previous estimate that NACO had estimated. So it's going to be a big challenge for us, because the estimation and the prevalence of HIV among injecting drug users is as per the 177, but we'll have to actually look at the new number of how we are going to take it forward with this. So as you can see, we have about 6.26 prevalence among injecting drug users in the country. This is the latest information that what we have and what we can access to. And if you look at the profile, many of the injecting drug users are who are actively injecting are in between the age group of 24 to 35. This is all across the states in India, and of that, this total estimation, the national figure for injecting drug users who are married and have family is about 42%, and about the remaining 48% are unmarried. So this is why I'm bringing up this information, is because it is equally important that we also work with the spouses as well as the partners of male injecting drug users. So the country scenario is that though we have good number of TIs, but then the access to services, to clean needle and syringes, is not covering all the injecting drug users who are registered with the TIs. And again, if what you would also see is that the number of injecting incidents, when I say incidents, the number of injecting in a day, if you look at the national average, is about 3 to 4 times or 3 times or more on the last day they have injected. This is what we have collected the information from the TIs, and of that, 15% of the IDU had shared needle and syringes. So that means 15% of the total population of what is registered with the TI are still sharing needle and syringes. So still sharing needle and syringes means the people might get infected with HIV, or if they are infected with HIV, they can transmit that HIV to another person who is not infected. Or even if they are infected, it could be reinfection of HIV from one person to another. So this slide talks about the number of sites that what we have in India. We have about almost 530 TI, which provide services for injecting drug users. That is needle syringe, outreach, abscess management, STI, and of that we have about 247, almost 250 out of 530. We have about 230. This is exclusive TI. The TIs, when I say exclusive TIs that are implementing project only for injecting drug users. And if you see the other number 530, these are TIs that are implementing programs with different key population, or what we call it HRG according to the NACO guideline, high risk group. So these are TIs with FSW, TIs with MSM, but if you look at exclusive, we have about 250. Then the number of needle and syringes distributed to one injecting drug user in a year, we have it is about 212 or 210, which is an excellent number, because WHO recommends that a person who is injecting regularly should have access to at least 200 clean needle and syringes in a year. So in a way, we are doing much better than what is being recommended by WHO. But again, the other flip side of that is we have estimated that there are about 1,77,000 injecting drug users in the country. That's an estimation. Of that, we have registered 1,30,000, or you can say 1,31,000. So there is still a big gap in terms of coverage. So we are still not covering about, let's say, about 47,000 injecting drug users are still not in the loop of the TI that is being implemented under the Status Control Society. And of these 101,30,000 people who have reported injecting episode with the clean injecting equipment is about 85%. And of this 130,000 injecting drug users, we have about 23,000 of them on the opiate substitution therapy, which is known as the OST program of the country, provided by NACO. That's the medication that we provide, so that people do not have to use drugs. And this medication is a very good medication. It takes care of many of the issues that the injecting drug user go through. Please focus on this number, because the discussion that later on what we're going to have, or what we're going to be interacting today, this services of OST is very important, because we would be concentrating our discussion more on the counseling. And when I'm talking about counseling, we would be concentrating more on HIV tests, on HIV medication, on hepatitis C testing, and other stability when it comes to injecting drug users. So this is a program that actually stabilizes an injecting drug user. So this is going to be very important. We would be referring it back to this topic on the subject again and again. And yes, the individual receiving OST continuously for the last 6 months is of that 23,000, 62% of them are regularly on the medication for the last 3 months. And the sites that is being provided, that are providing OST or with buprenorphine medication is about 212. If we have to update this number, it might have gone up to about 235 at the moment. And the number of, there is another program that is funded by the Health Ministry, Government of India. We call that as Methadone program, and we have that in about 15 sites across the country. Now the concern here is that of that 1,77,000, only 57% of them have ever been tested for HIV. So, and as we know that the highest prevalence of HIV among all key population is injecting drug users. They are way ahead in terms of in comparison with other key populations like MSM or female sex worker or transgender. So the concern is about the prevalence, and we have to put in a lot of effort to actually bring in many of the injecting drug users who are still not yet tested for HIV. So if we look at the program of the National AIDS Control Organization, the NACO also follows the harm reduction strategy that has been suggested or recommended by WHO and other UN organizations. So the WHO and UN organization actually recommends 9 comprehensive packages of services, which are as listed here. And some of the very important component of this is the OST program, buprenorphine, and the needle syringe exchange program. So these are 2 components, these are 2 services that has been provided to injecting drug users to actually prevent getting infected from HIV, or also to prevent, passing on the infection, passing on HIV infection to another person. Obviously, not unintentionally. No one would want to transmit HIV virus, particularly with injecting drug users. If someone is known to be HIV positive, he or she would actually announce that he is already infected, so we should not be sharing needle and syringes. And recently in 2019, WHO has also included one more component. From 9 now we have 10 recommended services, which, or we can call it essential services for injecting drug users. That is management for overdose, which is not yet initiated in all the states, but states like Manipur, they have already initiated this program. And overdose is one situation or an episode where, if it is a fatal overdose, a lot of people die because of drug overdose. But then there are also incidents of overdoses which are non-fatal, but it is always good to prevent overdose when it is reported, because no matter what we do, it's about life and death of a person, whether it's a male or a female. So overdose component is also an important component, and we should also be looking into expanding this program all across the country. So now, what is harm reduction? We already have three strategies in the country, not in the country, but then that has been implemented, or that has been going on for many years in almost all the countries. So in order to prevent drugs in the society, there are 3 different principles, and those principles or in fact the strategy. Those strategies are, first is supply reduction, second is demand reduction, and third, what we are doing with the national program for injecting drug using population is called harm reduction. Before going into harm reduction, I will just give you a quick explanation of what is supply reduction. Supply reduction is a strategy being adopted by the government, or by particularly the law enforcement agencies. In law enforcement agency, we also have different agencies, particularly looking into the narcotics. So we have Narcotic Control Bureau or Narcotic Control Board, and the law enforcement agency who actually works to cut the supply of drugs that is coming in, or the drugs that are being planted in India illegally. So the responsibility of supply reduction is mainly, it lies with the government. Second is the demand reduction. Demand reduction is a strategy where what we do in demand reduction is we actually provide information, we provide knowledge, or we provide facilities of a person who is dependent on drug or who has initiated drugs can be kept in a place for about 3 months, depending on the need of the particular person, of the particular individual. But on an average, you would see a person going to a rehabilitation center or a drug treatment center would stay there for 3 months. So if person is staying there for 3 months, that means that we are cutting down the demand of drug for that particular person, and this is being implemented by the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. And the third strategy or the third implementation that we have is called harm reduction, which is implemented by the National AIDS Control Organization. So I would discuss this in detail with you today, because this is the whole concept of working with injecting drug users. And when we say working with injecting drug users, counseling of an injecting drug user does not happen at one particular point of time. Counseling of injecting drug user should actually start from the time when they come into our services, or when they are in contact with our service providers. So the whole concept or the whole idea of harm reduction is that it aims at reducing the harms from drugs, but not per se the drug use. So what we are looking at is, if a person is injecting drug user, if a person is using drugs for a long period of time, we do not focus on stopping his drug use immediately. We focus on the harms that are related with taking drugs. So what are the harms? The harms are, number one, as we all know, it is HIV. Number two, hepatitis C. Number three, to prevent overdose, and so on and so forth, like tuberculosis, abscess, so that the people are prevented from amputation. People are prevented from serious injuries because of injecting drug use. So our primary focus is reducing harms from drugs. More important, reducing drug consumption. If you want to discuss on this, we can discuss on that later. So the third principle, or the third concept of harm reduction is also like it is more effective as it seeks realistic objective of 80% of something, which is better than 100% of nothing. So it is not possible for us, or it is not possible for any one of us who is working for supply reduction, for demand reduction, for harm reduction, to stop drug use at all in our country, because drug use has been there for a long period of time, and drug use will be there, and it will continue to be there. So it is not possible for us to stop drugs at all. So even if you try to stop one kind of drug, another form of drugs would be available in the market. So it will happen. So the more realistic goal is, how we can prevent the harm that is associated with injecting drugs. So if we are able to prevent harm, we are able to prevent HIV infection, we are able to prevent HCV infection, we are able to prevent death from overdose, we are able to prevent abscess or amputation. So this is the whole principle of harm reduction. And most of the injecting drug users are actually very comfortable in coming into programs that believes in harm reduction. So why harm reduction is more acceptable to injecting drug users, and why the National AIDS Control Organization has adopted the whole principle and the practice is that you can see from the list of information that has been given here. It's a practical approach that harm reduction believes, or harm reduction knows that drug use in the society is normal, and the practical approach is to reduce the immediate harm. Harm reduction, it focuses on harm, not really on drug use. We deal on to achieve a realistic goal. When I say realistic goal is to prevent the harm. Though eventually it may lead to abstinence, but then for a person to lead to abstinence from drug use, it takes a certain period of time. For some individual, it might be 6 months. Treatment might work, but then there are a lot of other individuals who have actually also repeatedly failed multiple attempts of getting treatment because of various reasons. It could be the place where it's residing. It could be the peers that surrounding environment that he has, or it could be that the individual is not just ready to give up drugs. So, if you look at the overall principle of harm reduction is that we provide service to keep drug user alive and productive until and unless treatment works or they mature out from drug use. And it is also important that we also need to respect drug users' decision and choice, that we cannot forcefully enforce any of the ideas or the decisions that we have. I mean, idealistically, we would want everyone to be not using drugs, but that's not the reality. The reality is different. So we need to accept the reality and work for the community that are marginalized, that are discriminated, and that are stigmatized. So that's why you would see that many of the injecting drug users do not readily come for services. So for a person working with the harm reduction TI, these are certain principles that we need to follow, that we need to recognize that we have to address, or we have to respect dignity of a human being. We need to seek maximum social and health assistance. And when I say social and health assistance, is because many of the injecting drug using population are have very less motivation for health-seeking behavior because of their drug use habit, or the other reason could be that they do not have much information on the services that are being available that they can access to. And third is, most importantly, that we all know that drug using community are discriminated and are being stigmatized. So for them, when they are stigmatized and discriminated, it is next to impossible for them to come and seek services from the service outlet. One of the other important things is that in harm reduction concept, we do not judge people. We let it be who they are. We do not comment on their habits. Rather, we try to facilitate services which can reduce the harms related with drug use. We encourage safer drug use. when I say safer drug use, that there are different ways of injecting drugs in our body. So the program teaches or enable injecting drug users that they are injecting safely and in their body with safer injecting equipment so that they do not get infected or they do not harm themselves. We also, the harm reduction program also recognize the choice and the changes that drug users want to bring into their life. We respect that. So we do not force anyone to kind of leave drug. It all depends on that individual. So we come to a common understanding that when they want to leave drugs, then we actually refer them to specific services. But then at the end of the day, we respect the decision of an individual. But then that does not mean that we encourage drug use. We do not encourage drug use. We encourage that while they are still using drugs, they should be injecting safely, and whenever they want to come out from drug use, the service providers are there to provide this option. And also challenges, harm reduction concept also challenges the conventional drug policy and their consequences. When we say the conventional drug policy, India, though we have seen some amendments in the NDPS Act. NDPS Act is Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substance Act, which actually criminalize drug use. But then there has been amendment. So when we criminalize drug use, they go underground. We are not able to reach out to them. Hence, the challenges start all from there. So if we have a friendly drug policy which actually enable people to access to service, so drug policy is also equally important. So why I have actually started with harm reduction. See, if you look at the topic harm reduction for HIV prevention, at the end of the day, the NACOS program is primarily focused on HIV prevention of the target that the WHO has set up 90-90-90. So if you have to achieve this target, the harm reduction service or the harm reduction component is equally important, that is being implemented at the field, and it enables injecting drug users to access services. So the method to reduce drug-related harms, when we say drug-related harms, the first one is how do we prevent HIV among injecting drug users. Not only HIV, but then we have to also focus now on hepatitis C, because hepatitis C is also equally important. And in the recent past, that what we have seen in India, and from our experience of working with injecting drug users, is that many people have been dying recently because of hepatitis C, not because of HIV, because as we all know that HIV is a program, is a service that is being implemented by the government. The medications are available for free in the hospitals, and HIV is a manageable disease now. So if people are taking ART on time, if they are adhering to their medication on a daily basis, one can live a life very healthily even if they are infected with HIV. And I mean, we don't see many of people dying because of HIV, because medication is available for free and it is accessible to many. But then there again, when we say medication is available, one key population or one HRG group that finds very difficult to be on ART is injecting drug using population. Why is that? Because of the lifestyle, because of the behavior of an injecting drug user, and the vicious cycle that an injecting drug user has to go through while they are still using drugs. So let me refer it back to the third slide where we talked about the OST program as an important component. So if you are able to put an injecting drug user on OST, it becomes very effective and it becomes more easier for us to convince them to be on ART if they are infected with HIV. So we have this needle syringe program. So needle syringe program is one of the most important component of the harm reduction service. But then it is also equally controversial because many of the stakeholder or many of the people in the community, when I say people in the community, I'm talking about the larger general population who do not understand harm reduction. They think that we are encouraging people to inject drug, which in reality it is not. Harm reduction services do not encourage people to use drugs, but then we encourage people to use safer ways of using drugs or safer ways of injecting drugs so that the harms can be reduced. And one of the most important person in the harm reduction service is a peer educator. It is a peer-based information on safer injecting and safer sexual practice and demonstration of injecting practice is done by a peer educator, and a peer educator, according to the practice of the national program, is that should be someone from an injecting drug use background, whether he is currently injecting or whether he is on buprenorphine program at the moment and not injecting, or someone who has already given up drugs and working for the community. So that he is one of the most important human resource that what we have in the program. So this entire package of educational intervention. What is educational intervention? How to reduce risk, safer methods of using drugs, needle syringe program, oral substitution therapy with buprenorphine. That now we have with methadone, but then like methadone is again still a limited number. It is only in 15 or 16 sites in the country, whereas buprenorphine program we have about 230 sites in the country. So this whole package is called harm reduction package. So let me break it down into these two important service package as well as the strategy. First, we have already discussed about needle syringe exchange program. If you have any question on this, please note it down so that we can discuss later. What is needle syringe program? What is substitution treatment? And other strategies. The other strategies are outreach services. So if you again look at the whole TI implementation strategy or the TI implementation design, most of our services that we provide is through outreach, through outreach worker or through the peer educator. The number of people coming into the drop-in center is very less, but that does not mean the drop-in center is not important. Drop-in center is equally important, and there are different services that we provide in drop-in center. This also, if you have any questions, we can discuss later on. Safe injecting facilities. Safe injecting facilities at the moment in India, we do not have this, or we do not have a formal setup of safe injecting facilities. But in other countries, most of the countries in the European countries, or one or two countries that I am aware of, which I have seen by myself, is Australia as well as Netherlands, where they have a place where people can come and inject safely. When I say inject safely, there are nurse, there are paramedical personnel in the particular center, And this particular, the paramedical personnel as well as the nurses also, they demonstrate how to inject safely. And also, if someone is overdosed in that particular site, then there are services available of providing medication to actually save the person from dying. So these are some sites where some countries have, but unfortunately at the moment we do not have this site in India. So now let me come to the needle syringe program, or what we call it, needle syringe exchange program. So the needle syringe program is primarily the first contact point for an injecting drug user with a TI. This is where the TI start registration of an individual who is using drugs. So what do we do in the needle syringe program? That we go out to the community of where they are, which we call it hotspot, or where people they would normally hang around, or they are together because they are buying drugs or they're injecting in a particular place. So these sites are identified by the peer educator. And again, please remember that peer educator are from injecting drug using community itself, from drug using community, who is, again let me repeat, who is currently using or who is on OST or who have given up drugs, because they would know where drug users would be, and it becomes easier for a community who was part of this peer group to penetrate through the group, because drug using community is one very sensitive group where they would not easily believe, or they would not confine that they are drug users because of the legality, because drug use was considered to be a crime according to our law. And drug user, they would not reveal very easily to an outsider who is not from drug use about their injecting behavior. So it is very important that the primary point person or the focal person who actually go out to this group is from that particular community itself. So that's a very important contact point for us to recruit or to register injecting drug using to register injecting drug users in our program. So what does needle syringe program actually do? Needle syringe program, we provide clean needle and syringes, and we try to clean up the contaminated, when I say contaminated, the used needle and syringes from the circulation among injecting drug users, so that we can prevent the HIV transmission there and there itself. So we take out the contaminated or used needle and syringes from circulation among injecting drug users and provide them with clean needle and syringes. So needle syringe program does not stop there. It is, as I told you earlier, it is a gateway to the whole array of, or the whole range of services of what we have. So it is also a point of referral. It is also a point of education. It is also a point of interaction. It is also a point of discussion on various health issues. And it is also a point for referral to other health service outlets. For example, like ICTC, ART, testing for hepatitis C, testing for tuberculosis. So all this service can be linked up if we have a strong outreach program, or if we have a strong outreach strategy. So if we do not have a strong outreach strategy, or if we do not have a strong outreach program, it is difficult to actually link up injecting drug users to other health services. So the whole philosophy of needle syringe is that we replace unclean, infected, or previously used by other or risk, and also the risk of transmission with what do we provide? We provide clean needle and syringes which are uninfected and to be used by one person, and there is no risk of HIV transmission in that, because if it is a clean needle and syringes, there is no HIV transmission. So the whole philosophy of clean needle and syringes is, actually cleaning up the used and the infected needle and syringes from the circulation within the injecting drug using community. So nowhere it mentions that we encourage drug use. Rather, it is a program that actually reduces the risk of getting or passing on HIV infection from one person to another. Okay, now what does the oral substitution therapy does? Oral substitution therapy is a program that actually helps people from transferring of illicit, when I say illicit, means illegal drugs, the drugs that are available in the market, which are bought in black market, drugs like heroin, drugs like brown sugar, drugs like ATS, are all considered to be illegal drugs. And there are also other drugs that are available in the pharmacy, which is of an opiate-based drugs that can be bought at the counter with or without prescription. And all these drugs are actually taken by injecting route. So when they are taken by injecting route, the chances of getting infection of HIV and Hep C is very, very high, until and unless they are injected very safely, and people who are injecting it knows how to inject safely. Unfortunately, many people do not know how to inject safely because drug users are, they have not learned like doctors or nurses of how to inject. They learn from their own peers of how to inject, and the process of learning is also equally important. They might learn the right way, they might learn the wrong way, and if they learn the wrong way, and in reality, many of the injecting drug users, they have learned the wrong way. That's why we are having such a bigger problem of HIV infection among injecting drug users. So what does opiate substitution therapy does is that we transfer that from using illegal drugs to legal drugs, which is long lasting, which is safer, and it's a medication provided by a doctor. It is prescribed by a doctor. So we are actually transferring people from injecting to oral use. We are transferring from I would say from a drug which is not pure to a more purity and potent that lasts for longer. So what does the oral substitution therapy does is, suppose if you if an injecting drug user, which I mentioned earlier, that on an average they inject three times or more in a day, that's been reported from the TI program, that if they are put on the OSC program, they do not have to inject anymore. They are on the program and they are being provided with this medication, and they just have to take this medication once in a day. That's it, and that medication lasts for a longer period of time. In fact, it lasts for 24 hours, so that's why they have to only take it once in a day, and next day they can come and they can take their regular doses. If they are taking their doses adequately, if they are on the right doses, then they do not have to go back to injecting drug use. So oral substitution therapy is not only good for replacing or taking care of their withdrawal. It is also a very good opportunity for us to also put people on ART if they are found positive, because the adherence to OST can be linked with the adherence to ART. But for a current injecting drug user, when I say current, for a person who is injecting, who is using drugs currently, it becomes very difficult for that particular person to be on ART medication or to be on the Hep C medication. So OST is something that we should all be talking about more. OST is a program that that most of the ART centers should be also building up a linkages or a closer relationship with the OST program. This will also help you to retain services for ART. It will also help you to scale up the ART services for injecting drug users, and it will also help you for a person on ART to adhere to the treatment protocol. So what are the benefits? Benefits are, it reduces drug consumption, it promotes abstinence from injecting. So when we say what's the benefit, reducing drug consumption, if someone is able to reduce his drug consumption, what are the benefits? Number one, the benefits are he is not spending money on drugs. For example, if an individual person, suppose if an person X was spending about 500 rupees per day, he would not be spending that money on drugs if he is put on OST. And the other benefit is that if he's not spending that money, then he's able to kind of save money for himself. It reduces the risky behavior. It also reduces the risk of HIV transmission or getting infected. So if he's on OST, that person is not injecting regularly. Even if he's injecting once or twice in a week or something like that. But then he's not injecting every day. So what's the benefit? The benefit is we are reducing that risky behavior, as well as we are reducing the risk of transmission or getting infected of HIV. Reduction in the overdose. It decreases use and it has high tolerance. Also, reduction in sex work. Why I'm saying sex work is that there are also, as I've said earlier, that we also have about 10 to 30,000 women who use drugs or female injecting drug users, and many of the female injecting drug users, what we have found out is that majority of them are involved in sex work because they need money to buy drugs, and the source of income is to engage in sex work. So if that particular person, if that woman is put on OST, then the need for her to do sex work also decreases, as well as, please remember that she is not injecting anymore, so the dual risk of getting infection from HIV, from injecting drug use, as well as getting infection from her from her sex work, the OST program can reduce that. It's a reduction in crime. As you are aware that many of the injecting drug using population also engage in some petty crimes in order to feed their drug habit. In order to buy drugs, they need money. So when they don't have money, they resort to petty crimes. And if that person is put on OST, the petty crimes can also be reduced. In fact, it has reduced. Some of the studies of what I have come across is that there is also a very very successful in reducing the crime rate among drug using population. Having said that, there are also certain limitations. When we put someone on OST, that does not mean that he would be taking that medication he would be he won't be taking that medication purely the OST program. There might be some incidents that he's also mixing with other drugs, because again, drug use is something, a behavior. It's the doctors, what they have prescribed, that it is a chronic relapsing disorder, and drug use is a medical condition that we should treat drug use with treatment, and equally with other supporting programs like counseling, linking them up to psychosocial support, linking them up to income generation. So these are a lot of other auxiliary programs that we need to ensure that they link up to many schemes that are available. And if it is not available, then we need to ensure that they have access to certain schemes so that they are also kept engaged, so that when they are actually, when people want to come out from the drug use, they have equal support system. Limited availability. When I say limited availability, see, we have about say, for example, let me just take the example of Delhi or UP. I am not sure if there are people from Delhi or UP. In Delhi, we have about 15 OST sites, but then that site does not cover all the Delhi sites. Or in fact, in UP we have about 15 OST center. But then if you look at the number of districts in UP, I believe it is about almost 70 districts in UP. But then we have only 15 OST sites at the moment in 15 districts. And also the districts are so big in UP that, even if you have one program in one of the districts, for example, in Lucknow, there is one OST site in Lucknow, but then it becomes difficult for other injecting drug users residing in residing in Lucknow, who are from a distance for about 8-9 kilometers. So if there is a distance, and it becomes difficult for people to come and access program, because OST is something that a person has to come to and to the OST site on a daily basis, and sometimes it becomes, not sometimes, many times it becomes difficult for many of the injecting drug users who wants to access this OST services, because of the distance, because of the time, because of the resources, and for many of them who are working with government, or who are working in the private sector. The timings does not allow them to go to OST center every day, because people have to attend offices, and it becomes very difficult for someone to be coming late to office every day, or going from offices for 1 or 2 hours to access OST. So this is some challenges that we have to face, and that's the reality. So now we have talked about the needle syringe program. We talked about OST program. Let's talk about a little bit on outreach, and we'll go into the drop-in center session. So if you see the heading of my presentation, it's about a holistic approach that we need to provide to injecting drug using population, and counseling is a very important component. And counseling is it is important, but then it's one of the most challenging component that when we are implementing this, particularly with the injecting drug using population. If you look at the other key population or other HRG, this is the other HRG. It is not a difficult task, because other HRG can be made available in the places where they belong to. But injecting drug using population is one such population that they keep moving from one place to another because they have to look for drugs. So it becomes very difficult for us to do counseling in comparison with other population. So the strategy here is that ours is to actually reach out to people who are hidden in the sense why we mention hidden, because many of the drug using population would not want to be identified. So the only strategy of what we have is use a point person from the community itself, from the community means from an injecting drug using community itself, to identify where they are. So the first strategy is finding drug users. Why do we need to find injecting drug users? In order to provide all the services of what we have in our drop-in center, as well as other important services of what is available or being provided by the government. It's also important to observe them of what kind of services they would like to receive, what kind of services they are attracted to, and establish a contact and a rapport with them in their natural environment. One of the most important component of outreach is that we establish contact and we establish a rapport, a relationship with them in their most natural environment, means where they are comfortable or where they belong to. It is not possible for us to bring all the drug users in the drop-in center itself, because majority of them would not want to come to the drop-in center because of, again, reasons. It's not that they don't want to come, but then there are various reasons why they would not want to access. So outreach is a very important component in working with injecting drug users. Providing information about risk behavior, providing information about the importance of getting tested for HIV, if they are found positive, the importance of starting ART medication immediately as soon as possible. If they are found positive of hepatitis C, linking them up to the right service providers. If they are having some problems with abscess, provide dressings, provide medication, and provide information and knowledge on how to do abscess dressing by themselves, and promoting and supporting safer behavior. So this is a whole process, and in this whole process, one common thread that actually connects to all these things is the trust and respect an individual is, one of the most important component of harm reduction concept. If you do not build trust, or if you do not build the confidence, it is very easy that they might not come to our services, and if they don't come to our services, then it becomes difficult for us to prevent HIV or hepatitis C infection among injecting drug using population. Let's not go into this because we do not have the services, but then I just wanted to also just pick up one point from here is that it is needle syringe injecting or safe injecting facilities is not just about providing safe injecting facilities, but it's also providing knowledge. It is also teaching them how to inject safely, and when they know how to inject safely, then it becomes easier for us to reduce the harms that is related with injecting, and provide an opportunity for injecting drug users to know about their rights, to know about what services that they can access to. Okay, I think we are coming closer to the end of the presentation. Drop-in center, which is also, I think many of you must be aware of, which is also known as DIC, is the most important point of service provision for a TI that provides services to injecting drug users. It provides Not only it is a safe space for people to come and take risks, for people to inquire about their health, to inquire, to also an opportunity for them to see health care provider. It could be a nurse, it could be a doctor, and it is also a point not only for coming and taking rest or for recreation, but then they can also collect needle and syringes and dispose of the all needle and syringes that they have. It is a place where they can hang around for recreational purposes. Recreational purposes, what does this mean? That they can come and stay in the drop-in center. It is a safe space. They feel comfortable staying and taking rest over here. Some of the drop-in centers that what we have seen in the country or beyond our country is that it is not just a place for recreation, but then it is also a place for many of the women who use drugs to bring their children. There are drop-in centers which provide facilities for taking bath. There are drop-in centers which provide facilities for washing clothes. There are provisions for a healthcare provider and coming to the drop-in center and providing sessions on the importance of hygiene, the importance of keeping themselves clean, the importance of taking care of the children. So all this facilities is being provided at the drop-in center. But on an average, if you see the NACO supported drop-in center through State Pest Control Society do not have all these facilities, but some NGOs they do provide these additional facilities like taking bath, coming and washing their clothes. Because again, if you see the profile of injecting drug users in the country is that that many of them are who come and access services are actually street-based drug users. When I say street-based drug user, it does not apply to all over the country, but then places like Delhi, places like the metropolitan city like Mumbai or Kolkata or Chennai. In fact, you would see most of the injecting drug using population, or for example, like Ghaziabad, you would see are mostly street-based drug users. They do not have much of a family support. Having said that, it does not mean that all the injecting drug using population in the country are from that profile. If you see, again, some of the northeastern state, many of the injecting drug users, they are from a well-to-do family. They have family support. They have got good education. Many of them are, they have completed their college education. In fact, some of them, they have even higher education, like they hold master degrees and PhD, and some of them. But then again, majority of the people in, so the design of the program, it also depends on what's the profile of drug users that we're actually working with. It also provides education. Not only education, there are also recreational facilities like television, or sometimes what we call it VCR, but then now that the time has changed and we don't need VCR, we just need a USB drive to actually play some of the videos that are actually health-seeking behavior. For example, if you have abscess, there are videos that actually is a self-explanatory that that you need to be doing this, you need to be doing that to take care of your abscess. If you're HIV positive, how you should be taking medication timely, what's the importance of taking medicine on time, adherence, viral load information, all those things are being played repeatedly again and again. So it's a great opportunity for us to impart knowledge. So other services are, again, overdose management. We also provide condoms, referral for medical complications. When I say complications, for example, if someone is having an abscess, and if it is a serious abscess that would lead to amputation, then we need to refer that particular person to a bigger hospital where there are more facilities. STI treatment and other general illness. So these are services that have been provided from the drop-in center. So now coming to the drug, what is the vicious cycle? The vicious cycle is, drugs is something that if you take it, it makes you feel good, but if it is not taken, it makes you feel miserable, it makes you feel withdrawal. So the whole circle or the whole cycle of a person who is using drugs revolves around this. It revolves around this. So if you take it, it makes you feel good. If you don't take it, it makes you feel miserable. Withdrawal is something that I would want to put it this way, that withdrawal is something that it's the biggest nightmare of a drug user or of an injecting drug user, because withdrawal is something that is very painful. That is, it cannot be described that withdrawal is like this. Only a person who has gone through withdrawal will be able to identify what withdrawal is. When a drug user is having withdrawal, they are not afraid of police, they are not afraid of their family, they are not afraid of anyone around there. The only thing that they would want is their drugs. So when someone is having withdrawal, and that's the time when all the risky behavior can actually happen. When the person gets drugged, and to address to his withdrawal, to take care of his withdrawal, he would be injecting as soon as possible. And when he is injecting, he would not see whether the syringe or the needle that he's injecting is clean or not. So he might, just pick up someone's needle and syringes to inject it. So these are some of the times when when we have to be very careful in providing services. And this whole thing likely to go on and on a daily basis. So when a person is in this cycle, it is very difficult for us to link them up to different services for HIV, for HIV testing, for hepatitis, for tuberculosis. So until and unless we don't address this, it becomes a big challenge for us to provide services or to refer someone to government service outlet. So one of the option to actually address this cycle is to actually put them on OST medication, and for many it works, and out of that, some of them, they might want to go to a rehab center. It's well and good if they can afford it, or if there are some free treatment centers, we should refer it to them. But until and unless we don't address this cycle of a drug user, it becomes difficult for us to kind of link it up to other services. I think that's the end of my presentation with just the conclusion. So, okay, let me just run through this conclusion. That the harm reduction concept is associated with drug use can be dealt with in a number of ways. Harm reduction is the most practical and the flexible approach to reduce harm. Why I am saying this is that if we are able to address, and if we are flexible, then it becomes easier for us to refer them to other services that is required for injecting drug users. And what are the services that is actually required for drug users? What is the most important thing that we are talking about here in today's session is about prevention of HIV and prevention of hepatitis C. So if we are not able to reach out to an individual who is injecting on a regular basis, it becomes very difficult for us to prevent HIV. It becomes very difficult for us to prevent hepatitis C. Why I'm saying this is, if they are not in contact with us, if they are not accessing clean needle and syringes, or if they are not coming to our center, and if you're not able to impart information and knowledges about being getting tested, about if and if they are known to be, if they are found to be HIV positive, the importance of starting ART medication as soon as possible. It all becomes very difficult if we are not able to reach out to a particular individual. And also, the other important aspect is that we should be respecting an individual. We should not be judgmental. So it depends on a person who wants to give up drugs. If we force someone to give up drugs, it is unlikely to happen. This is what I'm sharing from my experience. If someone is actually coming and seeking for help, and if he wants to give up drugs, that's the right opportunity for us to provide all the services that is possible. But then if we force someone, then at the end of the day, what happens is that that person might not turn up for the services the next day, or the person might not be available in the field, or even if he's available, he might not want to come and meet me because, like, I am not very supportive to, or I'm not very um, I am not very supportive to what that person wants. So it is important for us to be a bit mindful that we need to respect individuals. We need to respect the right of a person to decide what services that he would want to, and if we are able to do this, then it becomes easier for us to implement programs successfully and to bring drug using community in the loop of the services. What do we have next? Okay. This is a slide that I wanted to share with everyone, that of the 10 HIV that are diagnosed all over the world, out of the 10, one is among the injecting drug using population. 50% of the injecting drug using population have access to, only 50% of them have access to services. That means that no matter what we do, no matter what kind of services that we provide, that if 50% of the population are not coming into our services, that means the HIV infection is still going on. When we are saying HIV infection, it is not only about the infection among injecting drug users. Please remember that when I started the presentation, I've shown you I've shared information that almost 42 to 45% of them are married. So when a person is married, and if he is infected, and if he does not know his status, or if he is not aware of how to protect it, he would pass on the infection to his wife, and from his wife it could pass on the infection to the children. So it is very important for us to stop the infection at the point of where we are able to identify. If we are able to identify an injecting drug user, then that's the point of where we should be providing all sorts of information as well as services. And the other challenges is that only 1 in 4, suppose for example, if we have 400 injecting drug user in a particular site, only 100 of them have access to clean needle and syringes. This is a source that we got from 2015 from CDC. So it's very important for us that we are able to reach to at least 80 to 90% of injecting drug users who are injecting on a daily basis. If you're not able to do it, we might not be able to stop the infection of HIV among injecting drug using population. So I think that's the end of my presentation. Now I can take questions now. If you have any questions, then I'm ready to respond to that.
Thank you, sir, for this informative session. I think there are no questions. Thanks to all the participants.